For 1,000 years, the world of Christianity was shaped not only by faith, but by fire, steel, ambition, and conflict. Throughout history, Christian kingdoms, empires, and factions fought wars they believed carried divine purpose. Some battles were framed as holy missions. Others were driven by power, politics, and survival, only later wrapped in the language of religion. But whatever their origins, these wars defined continents, toppled monarchies, redrew borders, and reshaped the civilizations we know today. To understand the major Christian wars, those that changed the course of world history, we begin not in Europe but in the deserts of the Middle East, where an idea of a holy struggle ignited one of the most dramatic campaigns the world had ever seen, the Crusades. The year is 1095. Europe is fractured, recovering from centuries of internal conflict, famine, and instability. The Byzantine Empire, under pressure from expanding Seljuk Turk forces, sends an urgent call for help to the West. Pope Urban II seizes this moment, addressing a massive crowd at Clermont. He calls for Christian knights to march east, reclaim Jerusalem, and defend fellow Christians. His speech electrifies Europe. People from every class, from armored knights to poor peasants, take up the cross, believing they are marching on a mission ordained by God Himself. What followed was a moment unlike any other in medieval history: massive waves of European armies marching thousands of miles toward the Holy Land. The First Crusade was brutal, chaotic, and shockingly successful. After years of marching, sieges, and starvation, Crusader forces captured Jerusalem in 1099. The aftermath was a violent storm of slaughter that remains controversial to this day. Yet in European chronicles, it was celebrated as a miracle, for the first time in centuries. Western European powers carved out kingdoms far beyond their homelands. But these victories triggered centuries of war. Muslim forces regrouped, fragmented Crusader states struggled to survive, and new leaders rose in the east. Among them was Salah ad-Din Saladin, whose unification of Muslim territories and victory at the Battle of Hattin in 1187 changed everything. Jerusalem fell under Muslim control again, sparking more crusades, including the legendary campaign led by Richard the Lionheart. But despite Richard's battlefield skill and near-legendary reputation, the Crusaders never fully reclaimed the Holy City. Over time, the Crusades transformed from massive religious pilgrimages into complex geopolitical campaigns, involving rival Christian kings, shifting alliances, and even wars between Crusaders themselves. By the end of the 13th century, the Crusader states had collapsed, leaving behind centuries of cultural memory, religious scars, and a legacy that still influences global politics today. While the Crusades shaped the relationship between Christianity and the Islamic world, another storm was brewing within Europe itself. A storm that would fracture Christianity from the inside out: the Reformation. By the early 1500s, the Catholic Church was the most powerful institution in Europe. But it was also an institution under pressure, criticized for corruption, political influence, and practices like indulgences. In 1517, a German monk named Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses to the church door in Wittenberg. What started as a theological debate erupted into a religious earthquake. Luther's call for reform challenged not only church teachings, but its authority. Across Europe, ideas spread faster than ever thanks to the printing press, and soon entire kingdoms were asking whether Rome should truly rule over their faith. This division quickly turned violent. Princes and monarchs aligned themselves with either Catholicism or the rising Protestant movement. Power, land, and legitimacy all hung in the balance. What followed was a series of brutal confrontations known as the Wars of the Reformation. Germany became one of the central battlegrounds. Protestant princes demanded the right to determine their own religion. Catholic forces, backed by the Holy Roman Emperor, fought fiercely to preserve the old order. Battles raged across the countryside. Entire regions were devastated. After years of conflict, the Peace of Augsburg in 1555 attempted to resolve the chaos through a radical principle: the religion of a territory would be determined by its ruler. For the moment, war paused. But underneath the surface, tension continued to rise. France, too, became engulfed in religious conflict. Throughout the second half of the 1500s, Catholics and Huguenots French Protestants fought in a series of clashes known as the French Wars of Religion. These wars were marked by shifting alliances, court intrigue, and one of the darkest events in French history, the Bartholomew's Day Massacre of 1572, where thousands of Protestants were killed in a wave of coordinated violence. The conflict only ended when Henry of Navarre, a Protestant, converted to Catholicism to become king, declaring that Paris is worth a mass. His Edict of Nantes finally granted Protestants limited rights and brought a fragile peace to France. But the most catastrophic conflict in Christian Europe was still yet to come. Beginning in 1618, a spark in the small kingdom of Bohemia ignited the 30 Years' War, one of the bloodiest, most destructive wars in European history. What began as a religious dispute quickly spiraled into a continent-wide struggle involving nearly every major European power. Catholic and Protestant states battled across Germany in a war marked by famine, plague, scorched earth tactics, and massive civilian suffering. Armies plundered towns, kingdoms collapsed, and the political landscape of Europe fractured beyond recognition. Over time, the war transformed from a religious conflict into a geopolitical struggle for dominance. France, a Catholic nation, fought against the Catholic Habsburgs to prevent them from becoming too powerful. Sweden, Denmark, and Spain all entered the fray. The war dragged on for decades, leaving nearly one-third of the German population dead. Cities were reduced to ruins. Entire regions were depopulated. When peace finally came in 1648 with the Peace of Westphalia, Europe was forever changed. The Holy Roman Empire's power was shattered, the map of Europe was redrawn, and the modern system of sovereign nation-states began to emerge, while Europe nearly destroyed itself in these internal wars. Christianity also played a central role in the era of global exploration and colonization. When European powers expanded across the Americas, Africa, and Asia, religion often traveled with them, sometimes peacefully through missionaries, but often alongside conquest, economic exploitation, and military force. Christianity became intertwined with imperial ambitions, leading to conflicts with indigenous populations as kingdoms sought to spread their influence and faith across newly claimed territories. Across these centuries, one theme becomes clear: the major Christian wars were rarely just about religion. They were about power, identity, land, empire, fear, and the struggle for dominance. Religion provided meaning, legitimacy, and moral justification, but the real engines of war were human ambition and the pursuit of control. Today, these conflicts are remembered not only for their brutality, but for how they shaped the world. They redrew borders, influenced governments, transformed cultures, and altered the trajectory of nations. Understanding them is not just learning history, it is understanding how the modern world was built on decisions, beliefs, and battles fought centuries ago. If you enjoyed this deep documentary breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more long-form historical analysis, and drop a comment telling me which conflict or civilization you want covered next. This video is for educational purposes only and provides historical analysis, not religious judgment or political advocacy.